Welcome to Therapy, Tech, and Takeout. We're an entrepreneur and therapist exploring how technology is shaping mental health and what it means for how we live, connect, and care for ourselves. I'm Toni Teixeira. I'm the therapist.
And I'm Jackie Toll. I'm the entrepreneur. So what's going on, Toni? How's your week been?
It's been a good week. It was kind of exciting last night. I don't know if I shared with you, my husband and I take dance
Yeah.
classes. We take ballroom dance lessons.
That's so cool.
And we had a session with someone who was different. You know, they kind of rotate the trainers. And he took a look at something that we were doing. It was a tango and gave us like a tip that really like changed the feel for us of what it felt like to do it and how it looked. And he was so excited for us. And he's like, I'm going to videotape it. And he videotaped it and we got to see it. I'm like, wow, we do
That's
look
so cool.
different. So I'm like really excited about that because it feels like I learned something new and then you learn the next thing and you know, you make those like little steps, but then something like the style really kind of changes the whole feel for it. So that's really cool.
It's cool when those things kind of all come together and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
wow, I'm doing the thing. Like, this is the thing. That's so neat. I love that. And it takes the work that you've put in to get to that point, too.
Yeah,
for sure.
So it's exciting. So we just do it for ourselves. I mean, we're not competing or anything. It's our fun date night thing to do.
I love
It's
that.
like really our date night. Yeah.
I love that. I have not been, my daughter actually yesterday saw an ad for Dancing with the Stars and she's like, oh, I can't wait for that to be back on. And I've never gotten into that one, but I do like when I'm over in the UK and we'll watch Strictly, which is like their dance competition. And it's probably the same thing as Dancing with the Stars. Just I kind of like not knowing who the people are, like, and really just to be able to watch it for the dancing and the fun of it. So, but I do love those shows. Some of those dances, they're just gorgeous. It's amazing to watch.
Fun.
So
It's
that's
fun.
cool. I love that you guys have that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
What's new for you? What's going on in your world?
So after our episode with Dr. Julie, I ordered one of those falsetto things and I've been using it and I really like it. I think it has like actually started to help my sleep, which is a hard nut for me to crack. So I'm excited about that.
Is that the thing you wear around your neck?
Yeah.
Was that she was talking about?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
The
I'm getting a
vagus
good
nerve.
review from you. That's making me think about it. My sleep, not so good lately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mine's never been great, and but it's not to the point where I feel horrific every day or anything, but it's just like, it never felt like, oh, I'm resting all night or most of the night. It's like, I feel like I wake up a ton and I am waking up a lot less. So for me, that's a huge win.
That's great. I'm going to tuck that little nugget in the back of my brain. I might try that.
Yeah, for sure. I tried to get my daughter. I went up to Jacksonville to visit with my older daughter who's just about to start her rotations. And I kept trying to get her to try it because she is just, a ball of anxiety. And I'm like, just try it for the 3 or 4 days I'm here. And, because it takes a few days to kind of like really feel anything. And she was just like, oh, I don't like, because you do have to use that like a ultrasound gel.
Yeah.
And she doesn't like that at all. So I'm like, okay, that's fine. Okay. So, but yeah, it's if you can tolerate that, I would definitely give it a try.
Yeah, I used to use that with I'd wear a heart monitor when I was running, like an old school one, and you'd have to use gel for it to really make that connection.
Yeah.
So I don't have a problem with that. So that's cool.
Yay. Well, interesting. I am excited to jump into our topic this week because I thought it was kind of a wow, okay. It reminded me back to the time when I read Freakonomics and really started to think about that sort of like causation and whatnot sort of thing. So let me pull up.
Yeah. Well, my favorite thing was we're not blaming technology.
Right.
For stuff, which was interesting I love the different perspective of what's going on here. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is an article from Inc. By Jessica Stillman, and it's titled, "We've Been Blaming Screens for Anxious Kids. A New Study Points to a Completely Different Culprit." And spoiler alert, the culprit is perfectionism. Which I don't know if when you read that it hit home, but that kind of was like, ouch, when I read that.
Yeah. I almost want to ask, like, if you have a relationship with this perfectionism thing. I almost feel like, if you live in the United States, everybody probably has a feeling, a thought, or a familiarity with that.
For sure. And, I was definitely like the kid who was super focused on grades and, all of that type of stuff, all the way through. That internal pressure. And then I also think that societal pressure. I think like a lot was expected of me. And so like I felt like there was that like performative side. I thought it was interesting that this article actually talked about like three different types
Yeah.
of perfectionism or like ways it comes at you. It's like internal, it's societal, and there was another one I can't remember.
Right. Oh gosh, I don't remember the other one either. But yes, there were three different pressure points of
Yeah.
like how it's coming at you. Right.
Could could you just because like I struggle with is it perfectionism or is it just high standards? Could you give us like a idea of like where you draw the line for perfectionism when as a problem sort of behavior or trait?
Yeah, I think that we start leaning into the what's high achieving versus what's perfectionism when we're really looking at impossible or unachievable standards. That really is what perfectionism is about. Getting straight A's in every single class through 4 years of school. Some people do it. That's great. But you're not accounting for you might get sick. Something might happen in your family. Something like to set that as a goal that might be achievable is one thing, but the pressure to make that happen, that's something else. The article calls it pathological striving, pathological levels of striving.
Yeah.
I don't love the word pathological, but there's something about doing that doesn't feel safe if you don't do that. The problem is you're painting yourself into a corner and creating more anxiety because you're probably creating something that's unachievable,
Yeah.
something that is not possible and not giving yourself any room. The other thing is that sometimes perfectionism leads to not even trying because you might fail. So there's so much fear of failure, right? That's the flip side of perfectionism that you don't even get started. So you get locked up. I had a little bit of that when I was younger, that feeling of why even bother? This isn't, it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to like come out exactly the way, the best of the best, not even just like good, like,
Right.
top level, why even bother? Which I struggled with myself and realize that like failure is part of the process. So someone who is perfectionistic, if you have that conversation with them, like failure is kind of part of the process. When we fail, we get to learn. That would be like their eyes would glaze over.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And that would be a really hard concept.
Yeah, that makes sense because like failure's the object of like the anxiety. That's like the thing. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. I think
And it's soul crushing. It's
yeah.
soul crushing. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I see it with my kids for sure. And I think too, like the standards have shifted. So one thing, sorry, before I jump ahead, I just want to point out that they're able to, that this researcher was able to kind of make this distinction that it's really perfectionism that's driving the spike of anxiety because he went back to like the 80s and
Hmm.
interviews with college students in the US, UK, and some other places. And like it really started to spike up in the 2000s before people had phones in their pockets, before it was like that was the cultural
Right.
norm.
So we can't blame screens and we can't blame phones for
Exclusively,
this
yeah.
exclusively.
Yeah,
Not
because I
that
do think
there's
it
not
is that
stuff there. Yeah.
yeah, like, I mean, I think that while, like, the anxiety, was up, perhaps, from other societal factors that we'll talk about, but I also think that it's, like, a reinforcing thing, and this idea that you've got a phone in your pocket and Instagram and pictures of things that look perfect and, like, it was funny, I was out to dinner with my daughter the other night, and, she's, like, studying a ton, so she had taken Instagram and some other thing off of her phone, and so she was like, when the food came down, she was like, "Oh, let me get a picture of it." And I was like, "Okay." And so she goes to take a picture of it. And then she's like, "Oh, I forgot. I took the apps off my phone." I'm like, "Well, don't you just want a picture of this food?" Like, you
Yeah.
don't want it just for you? It's just like, no.
Mm. Mm.
Like, that's it. That was really interesting to me,
Yeah.
but it is, like, about, like, the image that you're putting out there more even, than for, like, what is, like, important for you to look back on and be like, "Oh, it's not the food that mattered, it was the fact that I was out having dinner with my mom." Hopefully, would be what she would say.
Right. Really interesting. The other thing is being reachable, like, constantly. There's
Yeah,
pressure and anxiety around that if you
for
have your
sure.
phone on, if God forbid you miss a call or just checking and checking to see if somebody answered a text.
Yeah. Or
That kind of feeds
wearables.
into it.
Yeah.
Wearables, yeah.
All that stuff, kids can get obsessed or, anybody can, but like, I mean, all of these things are more points where you can apply that perfectionism and it's like amplified and praised. And then I also think too, like it talks in the article, the standards have shifted for kids.
Mhm.
I mean, it really is like A's are expected and,
Mhm.
like the grades that you could get into a state school when I was a kid versus when my kids were applying, it's crazy the standards,
Yeah.
how they
Well,
shifted.
the thing that just happened at Harvard. Did
Yeah.
you hear about that, right? Like, they're shifting, like, everybody can't get A's anymore. We have to make, like, finer distinctions because some people have to get B's and C's. We have to have some kind of curve.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. The expectations are, and I can't even imagine those kids who have been getting A's and now they might get a B, that talk about soul crushing for some people.
For real. For
Yeah.
real. Yeah.
So the thing that was interesting though is they really focused on how this is driven by economics.
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, that makes complete sense. The economic pressures and I mean, how much worse has it gotten from 2000 when this uptick started to today? I mean, just exponentially harder and, more pressure, I think.
Hmm. Yeah. So that formula looked like the lower the GDP, the higher the perfectionistic strivings.
Yeah.
And the higher the inequality was associated with more perfectionism too, perfectionistic strivings as well. Like, wow.
Yeah.
The fact that we can, pair those things together and really take a look at how the struggle really is about getting ahead. People are worried about if I'm not perfect, how am I going to take care of my family? Am I going to be able to buy the house? Which I think also feeds into what that message from society, like
Yeah.
that's what you have to
That's
have,
what's expected.
right?
Yeah.
There's no other way, there's really no other way to be.
Well, I mean, it's the American dream, right? I mean, there's nothing, kind of more core to our ethos as a nation than the thing we've all kind of accepted as the American dream of home
Right.
ownership. And
Right. Or even education. You have to go
yeah,
to undergraduate, then you have to go to graduate school, and then you have to work a certain career. And no one really thinks, well, kids are taking out loans
yeah,
and they might not be in a career where they're going to be able to pay back those loans. And they might not be happy with the quality of life or what they have. Like maybe it's okay to just go to school as an undergraduate and get a job that's not, six figures, but
yeah,
your quality of life, you're happy, you can pay your rent, and you don't have the burden of a student loan. You're not carrying that around. What is wrong with that?
right,
But I don't feel like we encourage that or show that that's successful.
right.
Our image of what successful looks like, I think plays into this as well.
For sure, for sure. And I think it affects our kids and it affects us, right? Also, like the way we project what we're looking for when we do parties and, like things for the kids and stuff. Is it a keeping up with the Joneses situation?
Hmm.
One of my favorite weird reality TV facts was that like back in the beginning of the Real Housewives, like the amount of money those women would have to spend to like keep up with the show was, I mean, a lot of money still, but like dwarfed by and it went from you know, like lavish, but like manageable type dollars to just like, 6, 7 figures, per
Hmm.
event. And it's just like, because it's
Wow.
all about like that image and keeping up and all of those like societal pressures, bless you.
Thank you.
So yeah, I mean, I think it's what we're putting out there. It's what's in front of everybody. It's like, it is the constant message, that
Right.
hustle culture.
I remember, Jackie, when I bought, it wasn't my first house, it was my second house. So it was like kind of that step up house, right? Not the
Yeah.
starter house. And we were very excited and we got the real estate agent. And the first piece of advice she gave us was to really buy a house that was below our means,
Yeah.
because the mortgage companies were going to try to convince us we could spend more money. And she said, look at all those houses as we were driving. I think we were in a car. See all these houses? I know these people. They have no furniture in their houses.
Yeah.
Right? They have the shell, like they have
Right.
the house, but then they don't have the stuff inside, and they're really struggling to pay their mortgage. And that was like a life lesson I feel like I've kept with me to really
Yeah.
think about who am I living for?
Right.
What do I want my quality of life to be like? And in certain neighborhoods, there is that keeping up with the Joneses,
For
that
sure.
anxiety, talk about perfectionistic, right? If I don't have the perfect house, the perfect knickknacks from Home Goods and
Yeah. The
all that
pressure of all
stuff,
of that.
there's so much pressure. Yeah.
And it's so much of it's like sort of self-inflicted, right? Or not even self-inflicted. I guess like like unintentionally inflicted on like it's like it got fed in at some point where we weren't paying attention
Yeah.
or whatever, and it's there now.
Yes and no. And some of it could be strivings or could be like echoes from the there and then. Because if you grew up with scarcity, if you grew up with a scarcity mindset, if you grew up even in a family where the only way you could get attention was by being the straight A student, being the good girl or the good boy, for some people, this might have echoes back there. And then it gets reinforced by our economic system, which is saying, hey, you have to meet the standard. So that's going to kind of kick up the dust on that and reinforce that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a real visceral reaction to one of the things in the article that I wanted to tell you
Really?
about
Oh,
because
I
it was
can't wait.
really interesting. So I think it was the writer of the article. I don't know if you remember, he said about writing in straight margins, like making sure
Yeah,
it's about,
yeah.
yeah. I immediately had this memory of being a little girl with my composition notebook and having to fold the page perfectly on Monday morning because the teacher was going to read the list of our vocabulary words for the week. And you had to write them on each side. And I literally started like sweating a little bit, remembering that memory that like, oh, here are the words and I'm going to be tested and I have to know them all. And the whole week or the month, I don't remember how we used to do it, but, we were going to have to know how to spell them. We were going to have to know the definitions and we're going to have to use
Yeah.
them in our, quizzes and our tests and our papers and whatever it was we were doing. And I started to feel a little bit of the panic. And that's what made me mention to you about remembering my own struggle with like fear of failing.
Yeah.
I can like kind of link it back to those Monday mornings when we had that like dump of like, here's everything that's going to happen this week. Here's the aim, here's the aim for the day or for the week. I feel like I'm just not going to be able to
Right.
keep
How
up.
am I ever gonna? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't think we get in school that, or at least we didn't, our generation didn't. It's like, okay to fail,
Yeah.
whatever. It's got, like do the best you can. And we're going to really kind of get through this together. And, you
Yeah.
felt shame,
For
if you were the
sure.
kid in the
You
class
got
that didn't
punished. I
understand.
got punished
Yeah.
if I didn't get good grades. Like it wasn't like there was a reward. I had friends that got paid for their grades. I was always so jealous. But no, it was like if it's not an A or a B, like you're getting things taken away, So yeah, it was definitely terrifying. It was funny that you point that one thing out because it brought up a very different or similar sort of thing. I changed schools in the middle of the year one time, and I remember I had written on, some sort of essay or whatever, and it was all red when I got it back. And down the entire other, like I knew, like there was the margin from the line where the holes were, but like you were supposed to find the like lightly colored one on the other side and not write past that either. And I didn't know that was a rule. So it was all red and X'd out. And it was just like, oh gosh, like what am I going to do with this place? I'm never going to be, I just remembered like how like terrifying it was to feel like, no, I can't even get like the spacing on the page correct.
Right, and that red
And what other
line
unwritten
is
rules are
crushing.
there?
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, and when you don't know them all, it's
Yeah.
kinda scary. I mean, I had a terrifying teacher for 2 years who, 2nd grade, the end of 2nd grade, it was like, "Yay, we're never gonna have to see her again," and she said, "I
No.
have good news, I'm gonna be your teacher in 3rd grade." Like,
No. You're
oh
like,
my
"That
god.
is not good news."
2 years. And she was the kind of teacher, she didn't like something, she would rip it up in front of you. Like just her whole method was like kind of shame and punitive. And we would, all of us kids went to school with stomach aches every
Yeah.
morning. And it was like just trying to survive. And I think that feeds a little into the perfectionism kind of piece because if you don't get it right, there's real punishment for that.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So what do we do differently? Like how do we break the cycle?
Well, first of all, this is a steep cost for people's mental health to live in this vicious cycle of perfectionism and never being able to get out of it. I mean, it's a trap. It really is.
And
And
like
the
you said, it
first is
holds you back, right? From
it
trying all
holds you
these
back.
things that might make you so happy.
Right. Yeah. I mean, personally, like I told you recently, I started painting.
Yeah.
And I think about like I could have done this before. I could have been painting my whole life, but I had in my head, oh, I'm not artistic. Why even bother? I don't even know what to draw. I don't know how, and I would just screw it up. And somewhere along the line, that mindset shifted. I'm doing it because I enjoy it.
Yeah.
Another thing that happens I think in our society, people have, because I hear this a lot from clients, they have hobbies or they want to start hobbies, but they're thinking about how am I going to monetize it? And I got to make $1 million from it. And it's like, why do you need to do that? Can't you just have fun? So I really think about focusing on the process and not the product, not the end product. That is one way, that is one tool I think that could really help people with
I
perfectionism
love that.
is to find the joy in the process or to even just notice the process, even if you're doing things that you don't like to do. Find something that you do like about it or find what you're doing in the moment and being in the moment. Sometimes it's being able to be in the flow. If you're looking for that end product, it's never going to meet your standards. And to also really think about the trap you might be setting for yourself. Because if you
Yeah.
don't reach it, you're not going to feel good. So you're already starting off, putting yourself in a position where you're not going to feel good about yourself. And we can't change like kind of what society is telling us. So the other thing is to find the tribes of people that support that. Like I go to a painting class and everybody is there really about the process. And I thought my first day in the class was like, oh, I'm not as good as these people. They were so encouraging. They were so wonderful. It was great to find out they all felt the first time. They didn't know
Yeah.
what they were doing. So there are communities of people and I think for a lot of like hobbies and things, you'd be surprised that there are other people who are like got started too and they didn't know, they didn't know anything and they
Yeah.
had to learn. So reach out to those communities because I think we might feel a little bit less of that competition. You
Yeah.
think it might be more in those communities, but it's probably less because they had to start there. And if it is more, then find a
Find a
different
different
one
one.
because then those are not your people.
For sure. For
Yeah.
sure. I love
Mm-hmm.
that. And I think it's funny. It ties back to something. I was listening to a podcast the other day and they were talking about Bjork. And they talked about how, like, her big breakout and, like notoriety and stuff came from when she formed a band that was just like, and she was almost like making fun of it. Making fun of the music or the, like sort of the pop
Yeah.
culture sort of. And like they said, like the same thing happened with like the Beastie Boys, like one of the, like, I forgot one of their songs.
Mm-hmm.
It was like they were making fun of frat culture, but meanwhile it becomes this huge like frat culture song. And like a lot of these artists actually, when they took like a satirical or like,
Yeah.
like they actually had some of the work that resonated most with people because it's like the pressure kind of came off to be this one thing.
Right.
And they were really able to be creative in a different way.
I love that. And that is a really great tip. If we can't make fun of ourselves, if we can't find the humor in what it is we're doing and the, kind of the humanness of making mistakes or just
Yeah.
having fun, then we're probably being really hard on ourselves. And that's probably leaning towards something that's going to hurt our mental health, not help our mental health. So I love that. Yes. Satire, being able to make fun of ourselves a little bit, being a little bit silly.
Yeah, being goofy and
Yeah,
silly and doing something for like the play of it. Might help you
just for
uncover
the
some
fun.
like hidden amazingness there. So I
Mm-hmm.
love that. I think that's a really good suggestion. What do you think we should do with kids? Because it's kind of a different, like, even if you want to encourage or, like not stigmatize failure and, encourage trying, and all that stuff, like the actual consequences of that, like, seem like the stakes are pretty high, like we talked about, because it feels like standards have kind of raised across the board. And if you're letting your kid do that and other people aren't letting their kids
Mm-hmm.
do that, is your kid at a disadvantage because they're out, you know, trying a Russian literature class that they wind up getting a C in because it wasn't their thing, or, like whatever. Like, how would you suggest to parents
Mm-hmm.
to approach that or think about that?
Mm-hmm. I think it's really important to think about the longevity and the mental health piece down the line, because the kids who are not trying new things and finding out it's okay to fail and they're in those really rigid roles, unfortunately, those are the kids really, I think, who suffer the most. They're unhappy with their lives usually later on.
Yeah.
They didn't get to experience their own unique qualities. It was driven by their parents, right? Like I'm just thinking of like kind
Yeah.
of those scenarios, right? I never got to, I'm not saying that that's me, but like they might say, I never got to really know who I am,
Yeah.
right? Because it was expected I would go to medical school and be a doctor.
Yeah.
I had a bib that said, my daughter, the doctor, or, whatever. So, and there are families that are like that. And,
Yeah.
and people can't stray. So then they start questioning their identity. So I think the risk is too high almost to
Yeah.
not let
I like
our
that.
kids fail a little bit. And it doesn't have to be, it doesn't start in high school or in college. Like let your kid try to put the toothpaste on their toothbrush by themselves. Like that's okay. Let them make a mess. Don't clean up around them. Let them make
Yeah.
that mess and then help them clean up. Show them how to do that. Wow. You praise them for trying. Praise them for taking on a task by themselves. I think and we were talking about this too before, just kind of like how we grow up versus how our kids grew up. We like watched them out the window. We had to know where they were all the
Yeah.
time. That ends up happening in the house where, there's helicopter parents and then there's lawnmower parents. What a lawnmower
What? No,
parent
I
is?
don't know a lawnmower parent.
Yeah. They're in front of the kid and they're making sure there's no obstacles in the way.
Okay.
Right. So they take away all the obstacles. So they do everything for their kids.
Yeah.
And I think that it's done in a loving way, right? We don't want our kids to have a hard life, so we take all the obstacles away. But if we're taking so many obstacles away, they're never going to have to struggle and figure out. And then when they get an obstacle they have to figure out, then they have no skills for that.
Yeah.
So helicopter parents, not so good, but lawnmower parents, a little
Not.
bit worse.
Yeah.
Really not so good.
Yeah.
So actually contrive opportunities to let your kids fail or to try something new
Yeah.
that
I
they
love
might
that.
not be able to do. And you could do it with them as toddlers. So you don't have to worry about maybe by the time they go to high school, they're not going to take the Russian literature class because they really know they want to try something else. And maybe they happen to be good at that.
Yeah.
They're not like trying that new thing for the first time and not even aware of what they are good at or what they
Right.
like.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
thing that jumped out to me was like, can you be resilient if you don't fail? Like, if there's no
No.
failure, can you learn how to be resilient? And yeah, I don't think it's a skill learned through failure. And
It's
like you
a
said, in
learned
that big
skill.
picture thing, resilience is like, if you look at a real key to success and happiness, I think resilience is much more the underlying thing than what college you went to or things like that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And perfectionism is it's like the antithesis of resilience.
Yeah.
Yeah. And without failure, we're not going to get resilience. And we really do need that for happiness. We really do need that to feel good, to be able to bounce, because bad
life
stuff's going to
happens.
happen.
Yeah.
Life
Yeah.
happens, right? Our ability to bounce back from the things that happen ensure our good feelings about ourselves and about the world, and even how we look at the world. People who are more resilient look at the world through a more positive lens.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So this has been a great topic.
Right? So
We
interesting.
went all over the place,
as usual.
usual.
Well, this is really fun, Toni. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And if you guys enjoyed it, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and maybe even share it with a friend. We will be back next week. I found a super interesting article from one of my favorites, Brene Brown. So
I love that.
yeah,
I was going to add, share this with a perfectionistic friend, a friend who
love
might need to
right. It's a
maybe
subtle
is
way.
struggling with this.
A subtle way, and we can all laugh about it together because we're all dealing with it on some level.
We've all
For
done
sure.
that,
I like that. And
thank you.
we'll
Looking
also
forward to
have
next
the
time.
link for Toni's book in the show notes. Go ahead and get that pre-ordered. November's going to be right around the corner, and you're going to be kicking yourself if you don't have it. So
Yeah.
we will see you guys next week. Take care.
Take
Bye-bye.
care. Bye.